speaker is going to be talking to you about personas and mapping as to how humanizing a target audience can work wonders for you or for your business. Karthik Nagarajan is all set to step up here on the dais. From the good grapevine, I found out that he's an extremely talented individual and a great team player. He's worked in areas such as internet security, RFID, social media marketing, and digital audience measurement. As leader within Group M, he drives demystifying the phenomenon of industry transitioning from niche to mainstream. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and welcome forward Karthik Nagarajan.
Check. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. I'm Karthik Nagarajan. I lead the content and the social media practice at Group M. And RP and team, thanks so much for having us. Before I go into the presentation, I was just having a lot of conversations in the corridor. And something struck me, and I thought I should share that before we begin. You know how it feels when you know that you're part of an industry when it is actually in the process of pushing the envelope. That's the way I've been feeling over the last 7-8 months, the kind of content I've been seeing. And I'm saying this more as a consumer than a marketer. The content that I've been seeing across platforms, etc. And I'm sure a lot of people here have played huge roles in each of those pieces of content. So wanted to start off with the thank you note. Thanks for inspiring the rest of us. So I've taken some liberties with the topic that RP had wanted me to talk about. Fundamentally, the question is there a science towards understanding what the user wants to see in terms of a content and where he wants to see it and in what format does he want to see it? In other words, is there a science to the whole content ecosystem? Right? I'm sure the jury is still out there on that subject. But the more I think about it, the more I feel that the borders are blurring in terms of what digital persona is, what social media listening can get you, and what the semantic web can get you, and all of that. So for the rest of the presentation, if you were to look at it as that central engine, and it's an open source engine. You can plug and play multiple things on it. For now, let's just call it a neural network, the engine that parses all these insights. And what are these insights? I feel that largely there are two types of it. The unstructured data, which is, or rather the structured data, which is data that we are familiar with, right? Data from research, data from performance marketing, from other media sources per se, things that we know and recognize as fields. And then there is this whole animal called unstructured data. What we tweet about in the morning, what are we drinking, where are we traveling, who are we checking into a restaurant with, what are we eating at that point, do we like this concert or not, and all of that. Right? And we are at a wonderful time in the life cycle of understanding unstructured data thanks to listening tools, and the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem that's happening in that space. A few days back, I'm sure all of us know the textual listening story. But a few days back, I met a couple of companies who are doing wonderful work in terms of listening for images. Right? So if you were to put a picture of yourself, let's say in Vienna on Instagram, and if you're holding a piece of Starbucks, what does that tell you? What time of the year is it? And what does that tell you about a user and where and what you're consuming? Right? So great work happening in the whole unstructured data piece. So when you put all of this together into this central parsing engine, it helps you arrive at two things. One is the whole content creation piece, and then the whole content distribution piece. The content creation piece in terms of what would work, what could work, what strategy could work, what type of content or association could work. And distribution in terms of how do you want to distribute this? Who are your influencers in this space? What kind of native content will help you push this effectively, and all of those. And of course, when you do that, there is a huge learning piece from that as well, which goes back into this self-learning engine. Right? So that's the best I could do in terms of recreating what the role of insights and persona is in a content ecosystem. I'll give you an example. We work with this really interesting company called Tuki Taki. It's an Indian startup, which does exactly what I spoke to you about. And the case we were working with them on is the case of an automobile manufacturer who wanted to drive test drives, right? Who wanted to create a spurt for a model that they were about to launch. And it's interesting the kind of stuff that we found out when we went out looking for what kind of content we should create. It's like we figured that there are different sets of TGs who this product would appeal to. And we also understood what are the other things that they liked. They liked gaming. And of course, this particular TG also liked drinking. But what did they like drinking? They liked drinking Blue Label, they liked drinking whiskey, Johnny Walker. These are brands that they associated with, etc. This is, of course, is a snapshot of a much more complex research. But the point I'm trying to make is, imagine if you are a content creator, the kind of canvas and the kind of inputs that this can give you into the whole ideation process itself. We thought that'll be extremely impactful. Another example is what we were doing with the broadcasting company. And we're talking about the whole Hindi GEC at this point. And we were trying to understand what it is that people talk about when they discuss soaps, right? Or for that matter, any content on a Hindi GEC channel. What do they care about? And hence, what is that input that the broadcasting company can take in terms of content creation? And the results were interesting. The two things that they really talked a lot about is the show content itself and the actors' personal life. Right? So they don't see them as just the characters. They see them as actors. They relate to them, and they want to know more about what's going on with them. But if you see what the channel was dishing out to them, not much on those spaces. So this kind of an analysis was great because it told the channel that, okay, this is the kind of content that will resonate with them across platforms, and this is what I should be sharing with them. Right? So all of this comes down to the question, this is all fantastic, great analysis, great data, but has it ever happened in history that a data point actually resulted in the creation of a video? Right? Apparently, it can. And I don't want to go far away for an example. This is a client we were working with called Honda. And the whole journey started off with a piece of listening research we were doing for Honda. How many of you have seen the Honda Mobilio Kapil Sharma videos? This audience? About 20%. I'll play it after this. The piece of insight was that when we were looking at conversations around different brands of Honda, different types, sedans, hatchbacks, SUVs, etc. One thing was standing fairly clear is that it's being seen as an elite brand. Right? The larger thinking was that you would buy a Honda when you're more or less arrived in life. Right? But with a product like Mobilio, which is an affordable 7-seater, which is competing in a different segment altogether, that wouldn't work. Right? So the whole process started in terms of, okay, how do we make this a much more mass brand? What can we do? And first we started off with, okay, fine, where is our audience? What do they consume? And we realized that they consume more digital video content than anything else. So whatever we do, it has to be in that space. Then what do we create? What do people associate in this space with being mass? And then the answer was fairly clear. There's no one better than Kapil Sharma to kind of drive that agenda. Right? So he has to play a role in this. Then we when we reach out to Kapil, he's not done brand videos before. This is the first. So we convince him, and then we have a conversation. And then we co-create content that both serves the consumer engagement, entertainment perspective, and at the same time is able to drive the product agenda. And I'll let the video speak for itself. Can we just play this? If you do a mouse over, you'll find a play button somewhere. Sorry, we can skip this. I urge you to kind of look it up. It's an interesting piece of content, and it worked really well for the brand. And the insights didn't just stop with the creation perspective. We also went about looking at how can this content reach the audience that we are trying to reach, and therein came the whole influencer piece. Who all do we want, to talk about this video so that it'll reach the right audience? But all this is great, but can this insights alone drive the purpose? Probably not. I'm a firm believer in the philosophy that data and insights is beautiful, it's great, but you need to have that little room for the right accidents to happen. Right? And I don't have to go far for an example. If I had told someone 30 years back that the right content canvas for a brand of butter is politics and issues of national interest, I would have probably been laughed at, and I wouldn't have gone very far in my marketing career. But then we all know the amazing story of the Amul banner campaign, right? Which is just the longest running campaign of all time. So a few more examples on those lines. A brand like Nescafe has no relation, anything to do with stand-up as a property or a canvas. How many of you have seen this video? Right. And we've been looking at conversations around this video over the last 6 months or so, and I'm yet to find one thread of negativity around this. Right? And likewise, if I had told someone last year that the basis for great content around the World Cup, great video content around the World Cup, is heads-up numbers, how teams have performed with each other, and that should be the core of the content, that wouldn't have sounded great as well. So the point I'm trying to make is that with all the technology available to us, all the insights available to us, I think we should be fairly clear that the role of insights is to support the ideation process and not at any point to replace it. Okay? So I'll stop there. Thanks so much.